Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a sloppy sports and entertainment talk show about the New York Giants, the New York Mets, movies, TV, comedy, and a whole lot more. It's hosted by a giant mess. That's me, the Real Cinch Neal Lynch. I'm a plump and furry Irish-Italian-American who graduated from a Catholic high school but isn't Catholic. I also went to a college known for producing doctors and lacrosse players and then became neither. Instead, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a Holy Spirit. You can leave me a voicemail, 862-BIT-1986. You can even text that number if you're not comfortable putting your voice on a recording. You can text that number and I will get it. Hopefully you will accompany that text with graphic imagery of people murdered by the Mexican cartel. Shout out, callback to the last episode. Make sure to subscribe to Giant Mess on YouTube. You go to youtube.com/Neal Lynch. You go to neallynch.com, my official blog. You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/giantmess, twitter.com/Real Cinch, also Real Cinch on the gram, Instagram. Subscribe to Giant Mess and Apple Podcasts. I'm also on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you are putting podcasts into your brain, I'm there waiting for you. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about how I celebrated me and my wife's 4-year wedding anniversary, my reaction to binging Outer Banks, a Netflix show that premiered like months ago, just getting around to that. And it was another insane week of Mets baseball, from a bunch of players getting coronavirus to getting shut out back-to-back games against the Marlins to almost bungling this Black Lives Matter protest. We'll also finish up with the Giants. The training camp injuries have hit, and they are devastating. Rookie safety Xavier McKinney, linebacker David Mayo, both done, out for a significant amount of time. We'll also have some bold predictions for the 2020 season from Sports Illustrated, and the projected starting lineup, this was before the injuries, from Pro Football Focus. So we'll try to figure out how to plug in where the injuries have happened. We'll try to figure out how to plug in there. So let's get into it. Let's get started. Let's just dive right on in. Pretty shitty intro, not gonna lie, but I'm fucking tired. The baby woke up every other hour on the hour, every other hour. I didn't even know what time it was when she was waking up. I just knew it was dark. And I just know I went in. I thought I calmed her down. Seems like she would lay down. It's like you got all the scaries out of your system. And as soon as I lay down, lay my head down on the pillow, she's back up at it again, crying. Do you want food? Do you want drink? Do you want dance? Do you want music? Do you want drugs? What do you want? So me and the wife just alternated back and forth, going in, trying to sedate this little demon child. And it didn't work. And of course, I'm driving her to school, and that's when she decides to sleep. So I have to she decides to fall asleep right when we get to the daycare center. Right when we pull in, it's like she's just completely out for the count. So I try to wake her up, and her eyes are rolling in her head, and she's like flopping around in my arms because she has no control over her body. And she ended up taking like a 2-hour nap at school. It's like, you could have just had those 2 hours in your crib instead of on a mattress in the middle of the floor of a daycare center. I know I'm making it sound like it's shitty conditions, and it's really not, but yeah. So that's why I'm just like, words are not coming to me as they should under normal circumstances. My sister-in-law visited for a couple days last week. We ended up going to a Tex-Mex place called Jose Tejas, Joe Texas, for all you Americans out there. And the last time she was here, Bree gave probably the worst performance that a little toddler can give in that situation at a dinner outing. And then this she turned it right around. She had her best performance of her career at Jose Tejas. We had the Toy Story on the iPhone, playing that. She was taking tortilla chips, dipping it in the salsa, dipping it in the guac, dipping it in the sour cream. She was just like, it was like having a uh, uh, a fourth member of a conversation that just didn't talk. I mean, she was just, she was there for decoration only, but uh, man, that was torture though. That Friday night was torture because we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are still going out to eat, and these places are still packed because people just need to get the hell out of their houses and breathe in the fresh air. And we almost bailed on it. I mean, when you get there and they tell you how long's the wait, oh, it's 45 to 50 minutes. And you're like, that's kind of like borderline, I saw a couple people, as soon as they heard 45 minutes, gone. And so that, we played our options. We gave our name, and then you call around to other restaurants in the area. The other restaurant said like 25 to 30 minutes, but it's like it's a 10-minute drive there. So it's like, what are we doing? And what type of person are you, right? Are you the type of person that says, "Oh, I'm going to take this hostess at her word," or are you gonna call her bluff? Because I know I worked at a restaurant, was never a host, never a hostess with the mostest, but I do know that the quotes that they provide can be a little skewed. I don't know that they're necessarily that accurate. So a lot of times you call their bluff and you're like, yeah, sure, I'll wait 45 minutes. And then it's half an hour later, you have a table. So we waited. I don't know how long we waited. Couldn't find my watch. Watch is broken anyway. So ended up just following Brie around. She would walk up. They had like a boardwalk along the restaurant. So you just followed her up and down the boardwalk, up and down the boardwalk. Of course, there are, they use the parking lot. They used to have all their tables in the tent out in front. Now they moved to the side, much better. But there's a boardwalk lining that side of the restaurant where the waiters, the servers, busboys, whoever are coming in and out, flying in and out with plates, glasses, all, hands full. And they got to worry about, and now they have to be on the lookout for this little 2.5 foot monster wreaking havoc. So I'm just following her, making sure she's not, colliding with anyone and ruining dinner and possibly costing someone their paycheck or the tips. I don't know how it works anymore. But the worst part about it is I don't mind following her around. It's just like, hey, yeah, let's just go walk, get my steps in. I'm not even close to 10,000 steps a day. I don't know how anyone hits that like in a regular. You have to actively be like, I'm not going to use a car. I'm not going to use an elevator. I'm not going to use any kind of transport. I'm going to use my legs all day. And maybe you'll hit 10,000. Maybe. But you're walking up and down the boardwalk, and all I can smell, because they have the doors wide open, and all I can smell is the Tex-Mex food, the aromas, the scents just flowing up the nostril, up the navel cave, the nav cave, as I call it. Nav cave, the navel cave. The navel cave will be my belly button, Neal. The nasal cavity, the nase cave. Boy, sleep. They say marijuana affects the memory. Sleep affects everything. You don't get it, then you don't got it. So, but I liked Jose Tejas. It's okay. My wife seems to like it a lot more than everyone else. It's Tex-Mex food. I know they have some pretty decent jambalaya. They give you big portions of sides. Like I said, hey, I'll have the burrito with the shredded beef and no rice, and just double up on those black beans there. Those frijoles negros, I believe they're called. So American. And they gave me a fucking mountain of black beans. And I ate it all. Because the burrito is like, I mean, what are we doing here? Is this child size? This is off the kids menu? Still, the guac's good, the chips are good. So no major complaints, but at the same time, I was just like, can we go a little bit bigger on the burritos? And I think the weirdest part about Jose Tejas is they have the drinks menu, and my sister-in-law, she's got a picky palate. There, I said it, picky palate. especially when it comes to like booze, just not, me, you throw any kind of booze my way, I'll probably drink it with no complaints, other than the blue motorcycle drink that my brother-in-law made at my sister's wedding. That was pure hell on earth. I had 2 sips and I had to push it away. Only time I've rejected and denied and pushed away a drink. Not the case with my sister-in-law. So eventually she comes around. She's like, yeah, I'll order a drink, because she's not a big drinker like we are. And so she's like, I don't know if I want to have a margarita. I'm not really a big tequila person, but maybe I could do rum. And my my wife is like, oh yeah, let me see what they like. Maybe they have a daiquiri. Maybe they have a daiquiri, like a strawberry daiquiri. So she asked, and the waitress is like, we're like, we didn't see it on the menu, but do you have like a strawberry daiquiri? And she's like, yeah, of course. Doesn't card my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law, 20, gonna be 23, so she's not that much past the drinking age. It wasn't even a second thought for this waitress to card her. Waitress goes to get the drink, and so my sister-in-law is like, that's weird. She didn't even think about carding me. So something feels off, but we're like, nah, you're overthinking it. And of course, the drink comes, she takes a sip and is like, I don't think there's any alcohol in here. Like, I'm not really a professional drinker. I haven't earned my certificate, yet. But this tastes a little weak sauce. So my wife takes a sip and is like, giving her best effort to try and detect booze. She's like, I don't know. I don't really think it's there. And so then there was a whole to-do about like, do we ask? Because that's a move. We overthink it. Because like, you go to the waitress and you say to the waitress, is there booze in this? You come off, if there is booze in it, you come off as like, hey, booze hound, dial back the alky for a second. Dial back your cravings. Dial back how intense you are about wedding socially lubricating. So there's that thought going through the sister-in-law's head. Like, I don't want to come off as like this booze hound. If there is booze in it, then it's like, ooh, okay. But then I'm like, yeah, better safe than sorry. If there is no booze in it, you're really just going to drink like a virgin strawberry daiquiri? That's weird. So finally we ask her, and she's like, and the waitress is like, oh yeah, there's no alcohol in that. It's like, well, what the hell are we doing here, folks? Did you say it's a virgin strawberry daiquiri? No, you gotta say virgin. You can't just say, here's a strawberry daiquiri and there's no rum in it. There's no booze. You gotta say, here is a virgin, never been penetrated strawberry daiquiri. Never been deflowered, cherry intact, strawberry daiquiri. That's how you have to say it. You cannot say strawberry daiquiri and then expect us to, oh, okay, so there's no alcohol in it, right? And of course, it's off the menu. And of course, we completely forgot. We had already been down this road. We had gone with our friend, and the friend had ordered a strawberry daiquiri, thinking the same thing that anyone with a working brain would think. There's alcohol in that. And the servers, the staff, it just doesn't click. So the classic miscue, classic mishap. So for the actual anniversary dinner, so that was kind of like, I guess, you could lump that in. That's like kind of like part 1 of our anniversary celebration, 4 years. I don't even know what the 4th year is. I know the first one was paper. Second one was wood. Third one was leather. Fourth one is, I don't know, Kevlar, Gore-Tex. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess with the current sad state of the world, might have to go Gore-Tex or Kevlar. So we ended up, part 2 of the anniversary dinner was we go to Dino and Harry's Steakhouse. Very nice place. I've been there a couple times. We went with another couple. So it wasn't just me and the wife. We went with another couple. Also, they were also celebrating their anniversary. We're at 4 years. They're at 6 years. Of course, they've been together way longer than us, almost twice the amount that we've been together. Had a dirty martini to kick things off, always nice. Followed by red wine, oysters, shrimp cocktail, prime ribeye steak with mashed potatoes, cream spinach, Brussels sprouts, and bacon. And it was a cool. Oh, and I got a dessert called the Snowboken. So that should give you an idea of where we had this dinner. A little like vanilla ice cream type ice cream in a glass with the shaved Oreo crumbles and whatnot on the top. Very nice. $450. You know, I was contemplating, like, should I just throw it out there? Because I don't want people to think that we're just fucking loaded. When we see a number like 450, some people look at that number and they say, drop in the bucket. We look at that number and we say, holy fucking shit. The steak obviously is expensive. The red wine, we got, I think, 2 bottles. So that probably jacked it up a lot. I didn't even bother looking at the bill, but my wife told me afterwards, and I was trying to do the math in my head. Like, and this is where the steakhouse, I've said this before a million times, steakhouses with your sides charging the amount that you do, go fuck yourself. Come on. Like, what are you doing? You're not making enough on the alcohol and the steak? Ay. I'm an oysters guy now. That's weird. Never thought I'd be an oysters guy. I was always just skeeved out of my mind whenever someone even mentioned the word oyster. And now I'm just like, I'm just knocking them back left and right. Brussels sprouts, that was a food that, like, growing up, I was just like, that's like the worst. That was the example that everyone used when you're a kid of, like, vegetables, like, eat your vegetables. It was always like Brussels sprouts, and people were all like, and kids are always like, I don't know who you think I am, but I am not a Brussels sprouts kind of kid. I love them now, though. They really clear you out a little bit. It's almost like they're like the cough drops, the Halls or menthol cough drops of vegetables. They really clear you out. At one point, the waitress, elderly woman, nothing against it. I'm all for the elderly working, part of the workforce. Always good to see. She was carrying possibly too many glasses in her hands, her small, delicate hands, and one of them just shattered, and it almost sounded like a gunshot or a firecracker. Like, it was just like, and there was like a pause. We all paused for like 5 seconds. All of us, all 4 of us at the table, and just kind of maybe in shock. And we're just all looking around. And then eventually people started asking each other, are you okay? No. Hey, are you? I'm okay. Are you okay? I am okay. Are you okay? We're all okay. Like, individually ask everyone, group ask. And everyone's like, yeah, I think so. And I the way I equate something like that happening is, it's like in the movies or TV where the one of the characters is in a shootout, or like something crazy happens, an explosion, and everyone's just looking around, like checking themselves. And then there's that one guy who's like, yeah, I'm totally fine. Why? And then there's like just blood dripping from a hole in his jugular. You know, or like you start to see the big red splotch in his shirt. If he's wearing like a white shirt, like a light colored shirt, you just see like a big red splotch start to expand on his stomach. And you're like, dude, you got shot. Well, in this instance, in this scenario, my wife was the one who didn't know she got hit. You know, eventually someone across the table is like, you're bleeding from your right arm, you're bleeding profusely. And so she looks, and of course it's just like kind of gushing out. And so she's like, oh yeah, I guess it did get me. So we take the napkin and dab it up, and she ended up getting a Band-Aid. And I think we got a free drink out of it, but it's like, you know, $450 fucking dollars. Can you knock 100 off that goddamn bill? Not a free drink. So yeah, it was a good time. Got to wear my new shirt. You know, I got some new threads, courtesy of my wife and my sister-in-law, who went to did some outlet shopping, and ended up getting like these shirts from, I guess, Vineyard Vines that are like a little stretchy, which I like because I'm a fat guy. So it's like it's not clingy and tight, or at least it doesn't feel that way. Like it feels good on my skin, but then I realize, oh, I don't feel good in my own skin. So I was constantly doing that thing where like what's that fucking show on Netflix, the comedy show that everyone has memes for? It's what's his name? Tim Robinson, maybe. You Should Leave Now. If you haven't watched that show, do yourself a goddamn favor. Treat yourself. It's one of the funniest shows, comedy shows, new comedy shows, at least. It's the funniest new comedy show. I know that. Sketch comedy. But it only had like 6 episodes or something like that. Very short run. But they have to renew it because it was hilarious. Anyway, there was they did like a fake commercial for a fake product where it's for fat guys that have like tightest shirts. Or even if you don't have tight shirts, when you're a fat guy, you just feel like it's their shirt suffocating you. And so there's like they came up with an idea where there's like a grip or a handle on your shirt so that it's easier to pull the shirt away from your body repeatedly. So I was doing that nonstop with the shirt, even though it felt good on me. I was like, it's still something might not be right here. And of course I go, if you start to get loose with it, you're like, you start to mesh, like a symbiote in Venom. You start to mesh with your shirt, become one with it. And then you get up to go to the bathroom. I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, oh boy, my itty bitty titties are just popping, straight popping in this shirt. No bueno. So forgot my training bra at home as always. I got to say though, it is very weird being in an Uber wearing masks and trying to talk and acting like that's all normal, like it just was tough. It was tough. And I tried to tell my wife, I was like, can you tell if I'm smiling right now? And I feel like you can tell. Doesn't take much. You just look for the little chunk of skin above the mask, that little half inch space above the mask. If that just lifts up, okay, that person is doing something with their mouth, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's probably a smile. I also broke my 30-minute personal record on Peloton. No big deal. You can, send me reward money, prize money on Venmo if you want. I did a warm-up ride with Jess King. And if you don't know who Jess King is, then you either don't own a Peloton or you're in denial, pretty much, because it was just straight pornography. It was just, whoa, am I watching Cinemax, or is this a workout, or is this a workout? Is this a twerkout? I mean, good God. And she knows exactly what is happening. I'm a man. I have eyes. And I looked at her chest, because you cannot. It's the focal point of the freaking camera. And at one point, in the 10-minute warm-up, she actually says, hey, and this is not a live stream. This is a video on demand, archived on demand library type video. And at one point she just says, hey, eyes up here, and points to her eyes. And I had to adjust my eyes to her eyes. So she knows exactly what the hell she's doing. And I've heard, and my wife was telling me, until I said to her, I was like, yeah, it was pretty, erotic. And she's like, yeah, my wife stalks like Peloton Reddit, the subreddit, the Peloton subreddit. She's on there. She's on like the Peloton, like mom's Facebook group or some shit. And so she's like, yeah, there have been some serious fights over Jess King between couples. It's like, well, I'm glad we're not that couple. I'm glad that I can be honest with you and tell you that it's a distraction. But I feel like if you do decide to go with a Jess King ride, it should come with a warning. Like when you watch HBO or Cinemax or Showtime, and a program's about to start, they always throw up the warnings up there, TVMA, but they even break it down for you, like N, nudity, GN, graphic nudity, SC, sexual content, SSC, strong sexual content, adult themes. They have all these codes and whatnot, and it's like they need to throw that up, because some unsuspecting teenager will get on his dad's Peloton one day and just spray a hole in the wall. Oh boy. Had a mini meltdown on Monday. That was cool. Just lost my temper. It's I don't want to be a yeller. I don't want to be a shouter. I don't want to be that kind of parent, that kind of dad. And what's ironic is we were just at the anniversary dinner, the part 2 anniversary dinner, Dino and Harry's. We were talking about, our friends were talking about how, like, you seem like cool parents. You guys seem like you got it together. Like you're raising her the right way. We were at this breakfast or brunch, and like the kid was acting out, probably around Bree's age, 2 years old, and the mom was like laying into her, and the dad's yelling at the mom that she's not controlling the kid. And it's like, luckily, I don't think we've had that in public yet, but I definitely probably got a little too big-headed about how cool I am as a dad, and I just like had a mini meltdown on Monday and yelled at the kid, and it felt like shit afterwards. And I was so distracted by and felt so ashamed and guilty by what I had done in my behavior that I went to the grocery store at 9:00 at night, because I just needed to get out of the house and we needed some stuff, and went and did some shopping in a very empty grocery store. Picked up some impulse buys, some stuff that I knew I would fucking stress eat from here to Kingdom Come. And, get back, unpack the groceries, put them away, and like getting undressed for the night. And I didn't realize that I had the remote control for our living room TV in my back pocket the entire time. So I can only imagine how, like, people, I mean, the 3 workers that were there at the time must have thought that I was just Looney Tunes. Like, who goes grocery shopping at 9:00 at night and is not in a hurry and does a whole cart of shit? B, has a remote control and just dangling out of his back pocket the entire time. But also C, I just completely forgot how to go about getting like cheese from the deli. It's like, and the guys could tell I was completely lost and I was out of my element. Because normally when I go grocery shopping, it's like, I know I had a routine at the old grocery store. I had a routine. I knew the lay of the land. I knew where to go, which aisles were what, and I had it down to a science. Now it's like this new grocery store, now that we've moved, and I'm just like, it's like a complete, like, I'm in the upside down. I don't know what's what. And so I'm just kind of like lingering around the deli, and I know I need to get American cheese, but it's like, I don't know what's a normal amount of American cheese to get from a deli. Because normally I would just get like, a bag of shredded Mexican cheese, or, just the prepackaged shit. It's like it's got a brand name on it, and there's no different sizes. It's just, this is the size, take it or leave it. And you're like, all right. But I know that my wife has been buying like the sliced cheese from the deli. So it's like, all right, I guess I got to do that now. And so I'm just kind of hovering around, and then the deli guy is just like, I mean, you're the only person here. What do you want? What are you looking for? And I was like, American cheese. And he's like, well, we have this, like, all this stuff that I've already cut up, like laid out in this display with varying weights. Any of this catch your eye? And I was just like looking it over, and I'm like, and I'm not seeing a pound. And I think a pound's probably too much, right? A pound of American cheese for 2 adults, 1 male adult, fat male adult, and then 1 very slender, short female adult, and then a 2-year-old that her appetite is just like, I don't know what's going on there. So I'm like, a pound? And he's like, all right, I'll cut it for you. And it's, I could just tell he was like, and I had the thought in my head, like, man, this guy probably spent all day cutting all these various packages of cheese together, assembling all these packages of cheese for me to saunter in off the street at 9 o'clock at night after a long day's work and be like, no, you might want to slice me up a pound of American cheese. I can't believe that more people don't just punch me in the face. And then we went to the therapist, or no, we didn't go. We had a virtual visit with the therapist on Tuesday. And it's bad when the therapist is like, we need to find out why you are so angry and frustrated all the time. Like, there's got to be something going on deep down in your thought muscle, in your think box, for you to be so angry and frustrated with everything. So I'm looking forward to that. We also the baby's birthday is coming up. We're looking to celebrate with some family there, so that will be fun. I have all of next week off from work. Got one more day. Tomorrow is Friday. I'm recording this Thursday night, way too late at night. I should be asleep, and I'm not. And tomorrow is Friday, last day of work before a week-long vacation, week-long plus. And I'm going to disconnect big time. So we got that coming up, and I'm pretty psyched about it. Something random that I feel needs to be said. I'm like super into mine, and this is how I know I'm probably like, okay, you're now wading into the deeper waters of the midlife crisis. I'm like getting into things that I was into when I was like 11, 12, 13. Just trying to relive the days when I just where there was no responsibility and like I could focus on just like stupid things. So I'm like super into minor league hats now, just like hats of random minor league teams where I just like the logo. And I have a cart on the MILB. I guess it's the minor league baseball official store. I must have like a dozen hats. I have like $400 worth of hats in my cart. Oh, so close to pulling the trigger on this. Oh, so close. Because I hear, my wife spending this and that and this and that. It's like, I want to get in on this spending. I know we're saving. We want to retire early. We want to send Brielle to college debt free with no loans. But I need 12 minor league baseball hats. I've also been looking into like novelty jerseys, not just minor league baseball, but just like any defunct sports franchise or sports team, any defunct, decommissioned, obsolete sports teams. I want their merch. I want it. Like the USFL, United States Football League. I remember like growing up, my dad, for some reason, had all the banners of every single USFL team. And we hung it up in like the basement. No clue where that shit is. If I had to guess, someone probably threw it out behind my back because I don't think I would give the green light to that. No way. Jose. But like I loaded up my cart with all kind, like every single team where I liked either their name or their logo, loaded up the cart on some random website with all that USFL shit. Didn't hit purchase because I ain't got no spine, ain't got no balls. But I just like the idea of walking around in apparel where next to no one knows what the fuck who I'm representing. Like, what team is that? But I do like the idea that people be like, yo, I like that look. What is that? And then you open up the conversation. The problem is then I have to, and I had a bit about this when I was doing stand-up comedy, where it was like, if you wear a sports team's apparel, you have to know almost everything about that sports team, or else you get called out as like not being a fake or a fraud. Like people take it that seriously. You're wearing like a fucking Red Sox hat. You better know everything there is to know about the goddamn Red Sox. And if you don't, people would be like, take off the hat, dude. So that's the downside to buying all this like random minor league baseball and USFL shit is like I have to actually then do research on all the teams and have to be able to speak to when the one person that was going to call me out and be like, oh yeah, Denver Gold. Remember that 84 season? Holy shit, dude. That goal line stand. And I'm going to be like, I just like the logo. So that's life. What are you going to do? So while the sister-in-law was here, we did get to binge Outer Banks. I'm not going to do like a full-on review, but I will say it took me a little bit to warm up to this. I mean, the show premiered mid-April. So I'm like way behind the times on this, but what do you expect? I'm fucking going to be 40 soon. And in July, they announced that the series was renewed for a second season, which I agree with. Green light all the way. I don't know how you would argue against that with the way that it did end. Loved the ending. Did not love the start. The opening is like John B, who's like this like beautiful teenage boy, 17 years old, who definitely is not 17 in real life. The actor is not 17 in real life. I hope to God not, because like I remember when I was 17, I remember how other 17-year-olds looked, and it was like, we're not that. Y'all are just running around like knocking beers back and like smoking the dope and acting cool as shit. And not, just like handling things just way differently than what a 17-year-old would do, if we're being honest. But John B's narrating, and he's got the voiceover going. He's like, and that's us. We're the Pogues. And I was just like, I can't. This voiceover right now is completely turning me off to this show. And fortunately, I stuck with it. And, after the first 2 episodes we watched like on that Thursday, so last Thursday, my sister-in-law was like, what do you think? Hoping we'd be like super stoked. And I was like, yeah, this is good. I hope it's not going where I think it's going. And it turned into a treasure hunt murder mystery. And really got hairy there for a stretch towards the end, where it's like, I'm trying to put myself in other people's shoes. My wife is an empath, self-proclaimed, but I think a lot of people would agree with that. And so, I've had my bouts with some pretty bad shit. And apparently she just like, it's, if you could visualize it, it's like I'm giving off these fucking stink lines, green stink lines that are just going directly into her body. I'm just like, I am literally poisoning her with my negativity, my depression, because that's just who she is. She just absorbs the energy from everyone else. It's like fucking last week with Code 8. We were talking about Code 8, and it's like the chick comes across as a healer, but she's actually just taking whatever's inside you and putting it in herself and absorbing that. And I think that's a pretty good analogy for what my wife is. So it's like, now that I know that, it's like, oh boy, whoa, I really got to fucking turn this ship around. So good show though. I liked it. You had John B, which I couldn't get over the fact that like we can't just call him John or JB. Like John B just seems like so fucking why, dude? And his middle name is Bird. So his dad called him Bird because his middle name is John Bird Rutledge. Why wouldn't you just call him Bird? Yo, Bird, what's up, Bird? Hey, Bird. Birdie. Tweet. Like, why are you saying John B? And it got me to thinking, my fucking name stinks. Neal. No. I did a whole bit on my name as well, saying like Neal is just, it's a very submissive name. Kneel before Zod, you know? Take a knee, um, bend the knee, it's like kneel, you're submitting to whomever. So I was like, can I go by like ND? Middle name's David. Go by ND Lynch. And I started thinking about ND Chavez. And I was like, maybe I could pull that off. Maybe I could just go with ENDY Lynch, ND Lynch. And then have people mistake my name for being Andy, and then we're back to square one. So fuck it. But yeah, John B is the ringleader of the Pogues, which I could not stop saying Pogues. There were two things I couldn't stop saying in this show. Pogues, which I thought, first of all, it's like the Pogues are the poor kids from the wrong side of the track, according to the synopsis. Let me read off the synopsis for you. A group of teenagers from the wrong side of the tracks stumble upon a treasure map that unearths a long buried secret. And they're not like, what's so interesting is they act like they're so bad. And it's like, you guys are not, I mean, like, okay, so you drink and do drugs, but you're also not. But then you start to think about like the record that they're building over the course of the series, like, oh, breaking and entering, oh, attempted robbery, theft. It's like, if you were just to have a news report, some like uptight, butthole clenched news reporter, like reading off everything that they've done and is showing like the whole, like their mugshot over the shoulder, you'd be like, oh, those are some bad kids. But you watch it in real time and you're like, these kids aren't so bad. They're just trying to get by. But the Pogues, named that because apparently the Pogue is like a trash fish. It's like one of the lower, cheaper fish that you can catch or cook up and eat, apparently. And then there's the Kooks. So there's the rich side of the island with all the rich kids, and they're called Kooks. I completely forget why. But I couldn't stop saying Pogues. We're the Pogues. And then the other thing I couldn't stop saying was Rafe. So there's Sarah Cameron, who's the daughter of Ward Cameron, and John B's love interest, eventually becomes his love interest. She's referred to by many as the princess of the Kooks, but she often rejects the Kook life, gets mixed up with the Pogues. You have Kiara, or Key. She's the daughter of a successful restaurant owner, hangs out with the Pogues, technically a Kook, as she comes from a wealthy family and lives in figure 8, but the Kooks reject her as a Kook. So she's living that Pogue life. And her and John B get like first couple episodes, they're like kind of romantically entwined a little bit. And then there's a rule like Pogues don't mac Pogues, but it's like, you're not a Pogue, you're technically a Kook. So you could mac on this Pogue could mac on that Kook. Anyway, the Kook, Sarah, her brother's named Rafe, and I cannot stop saying Rafe, Pogues, Rafe. Jonathan Davis plays Pope, the brains of the Pogues, who is very bent out of shape about possibly losing his scholarship. He's like hell-bent on, well, I wouldn't say hell-bent, but he's very adamant about not getting into trouble because he wants to get that scholarship. Like, get that scholarship, son. You have JJ, who's John B's loyal best friend since the 3rd grade, also a surfer, also a wild card, also getting the tar smacked out of his goddamn eyeballs by his father. His father's very abusive. I don't know where the mother went. Mother took off, possibly divorced. Same with John B's mom. John B's mom just took off. I guess is in Montana or something. I was like, at one point I was like, where are all the moms? Where are all the moms at? Because like even Sarah's mom is gone, I think. I don't know if she passed or is divorced, but there's a stepmom. And then you don't really get to see many of the moms until later on in the series. But I thought that was an interesting approach. It's like we're just gonna see a bunch of dads. Huh. Topper is like my wife said it best. Is like this is the stereotypical rich '80s villain douche. Topper, Sarah's boyfriend, who eventually becomes the ex-boyfriend. Um, despises the Pogues, but then has like a turnaround towards the end of the series where it's like that was weird. Spoiler: when John B and Sarah are hiding in the like clock tower type thing or the church or whatever, and like Topper follows her to the place, and he's like, um, I gotta let everyone know that you're here, and he rings the bell, and then it's like, Topper, I don't love you. I love John B. um, and Topper's like, how can I prove my love to you? And so then he ends up doing like the old switcheroo where he wears John B's hoodie as he comes out, head down so they can't see it's Topper, and then he reveals it's him, giving John B and Sarah the enough time to escape. It's like, so what's your next move here, Topper? So it's like you proved how much you loved Sarah by doing this, but then is Sarah gonna be like, wow, he really does love me and ditch John B and get with you? It's just like that to me was kind of like a big old plot hole. Ward Cameron, Sarah's father, who's played by Charles Eston, but this guy looks exactly like the dude from Whose Line Is It Anyway? Chip, I think his name is, on Whose Line Is It Anyway? Exactly like him. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it is the same guy. But it was weird because I got the dude from Whose Line Is It Anyway in my head as I'm watching Ward Cameron. And I'm like, he's about to improv some funny ass shit. Here comes the line, the improv line that's going to make us all dookie our drawers. And no, he just was intense and dramatic the entire time. just fucking intense cities. He's a wealthy business owner who lives on the wealthier part of the Outer Banks doing his figure eight. All the Pogues live in a poorer area of the island known as the Cut. And then you have Rafe, Sarah's older brother. By the way, like, just high schoolers do cocaine now? Cocaine has made one hell of a fucking comeback. I remember, like, in high school, and, I was not cool in high school. I think I've proven that time and time again. But like in high school, I always thought it was just like it was pot. Ooh, pot. Pot. Clutch your pearls. And like I was just so afraid of pot and marijuana because my mom had told me such horror stories, which it's like, Mom, I think when you did it that one time and you saw spiders, that was not marijuana. I think you got some you got wet, son. I think you got some angel dust or PCP or something. It was laced. So I was like very staunchly against it because I was like, I'm already a pretty weird person. I don't need to amp that up anymore. So I thought just like pot was the thing. That's it in high school. And then you get older and you start to hear about all these kids like getting into painkillers or heroin, and it's just like, whoa, like Kooks a thing in high school? What? So yeah, it's like the thing that was Outer Banks. Like this like 16-year-old, 17-year-old kids just like railing lines in high school. And then Rafe was the guy distributing it at all. He's like 20 years old. And I mean, I don't think there was a time where he was not high on coke in the series. It was just like he constantly like twitching and nervous and sweaty, and gets involved with Barry, his drug dealer and the owner of a pawn shop, which characters like that, Barry, the Barry character, are just like they give me the worst feeling. I can't sends shivers down my spine. And then you have yeah, Luke is JG's abusive father. And then there was also Pope's dad, who was like, I don't want you to turn out like me. You need this scholarship. We don't get the scholarship. It's like, I don't know. I think he'll be all right. You know, I think there's more than one way to go about getting a scholarship. And it's like, and you know, you're not doing that bad. You're like catering to these like really uber rich parties. I mean, I'm sure they're you know, that's not cheap. So, I liked it. What are the twists? Can we talk about the twists? I honestly didn't think Ward Cameron was gonna be. Yeah, so John B's convinced his father's still alive. Hasn't seen him in almost a year. His dad went out to sea, never came back, so he's declared. I guess they want to declare him dead, but John B won't allow him to do that. Is that a thing? I don't know. But so yeah, he's on the lookout trying to find his dad. He thinks that his dad's speaking to him through clues. Finds a pocket watch, finds this, finds that. There's like this ship called the Royal Merchant that has $400 million worth of gold. And so they're just in a relentless pursuit to get that. And then, of course, it goes sideways because Ward Cameron, Sarah's dad, is also like on the hunt for that. And he's the reason that John B's dad is no longer with us. There was a disagreement about the split because John B's dad found it, but didn't have the equipment, didn't have the resources. And so that's where Ward comes in with the resources. So I honestly thought that was going to be a red herring type thing where it's like, okay, they find the two like lackeys that they're found dead. They have this similar wounds from the hook. And then you see the compass, the watch, the compass or whatever, and the hook, and like this figure with the hood over him from behind. You're like, oh, who's that? Talking with the sheriff. And then it's revealed that it's Ward. And at that point, I still was like, yeah, but you don't know. No. Like, I know this looks bad, but like, who knows why he killed those guys? Maybe he did it out of self-defense and he didn't want to like throw the hook overboard or something. And he has the compass, but like, you don't know why he has the compass. Maybe he's doing all this for good. And it's admittedly looks pretty bad right now, but maybe he turns around and is able to totally redeem himself. But nope, he didn't. It turns out he killed John B's father, and he's just a horrible dad. It's kind of amazing that you can be that kind of a horrible dad, like on the low, for fucking 20 years. Pretty impressive in that you're willing to just like, I mean, he came across like in the beginning towards the middle of the series, like I'm this upstanding citizen. I'm the, what was it? The like, not eminent archon. Jesus. Yo, you frat much? You fratted up, dude? You fratty? But it was something like that, like the eminent archon of the Knights Radamadon, Shamalama Rankokama, that kind of thing. Like he won that award. And like, he fires John B at one point because like, he thinks he's stealing from him. He disowns his son and is just like, you owe this much money. I'm going to pay it off. And then you're not allowed back in the house. It's like, damn, like, this guy is all about the morals and ethics. And turns out, nah, he's just as devious and dirty as the rest of them. So I thought of all the characters, he kind of spoke to me the most. Shoop. Oh yeah. Some of the recurring characters. So you have Sheriff Peterkin, local sheriff, who I didn't really get a good read on her at all. I was kind of on the fence with her throughout the series. Like, okay, so she's obviously like doing a favor solid to like what appears to be the murderer. So what's her deal? Is she on the take? And then you have Shoop, the dude who looks like fucking Taika Waititi as Hitler and Jojo Rabbit. He's got it's like Hitler-esque. the mustache and the hair. It's just like, I'm trying not to picture Hitler now, but you're doing a really bad job of, not convincing me. So he's a quote unquote sketchy cop, Shoop. The first time we see him, he's like going into that motel room where Scooter was holding up and like basically takes some of the money that was in that safe that's supposed to be like submitted for evidence. So the whole time you're like, I don't know about this dude. Is he in on it? Wheezy is Sarah and Rafe's younger sister. I was at one point I go, she was talking to Topper, and like the way that it was shot, it made Topper look like he was 8 feet tall and made Wheezy look like she was 3 feet tall. And then my wife and sister-in-law were like, well, Wheezy is 12. And I was like, oh, okay. Whoa, that's jarring. Why is she called Wheezy? I feel like we need to know that in season 2. Like, is it asthma? That really stuck with me. Rose, she's the stepmother, as I mentioned, Ward's wife. Hayward, that's Pope's father, who's just like handing out bags of shit. Just bags of, I guess Pope is the delivery dude. That makes sense. Duh. But he's just super, like towards the end there where Pope just like lays off and fucking clocks his dad. I don't know if I could ever punch my dad in the face. I mean, he's not around anymore. There were times where we had some serious disagreements, but there was never a time where he was like, show me what you got. You think you're a man? It's happened to some friends. I know that. And to some family. I'm not going to lie. But I don't know. I could never picture trying to punch my dad in the face. Because it probably would have turned out just as it turned out with Pope and his dad, like Hayward. When I think of Hayward, I think of like Ironhead Hayward, and his son is a professional football player. So I imagine I would love to see those two go head to head. But yeah, Hayward took it like a champ and just came back and like kind of half grinned, like you is that all you got? And was like, feel bad because like I don't know, my son just punched me in the face. Lana Grubbs, widow, former wife of Scooter Grubbs, who was killed during Hurricane Agatha. She eventually comes forward with some important evidence against Ward that she tells John B. Oh boy, when John B finds out that Ward killed his dad, it's just like it's on, like fucking Donkey Kong. Also, how about when John B and Sarah are like, they meet and we're like, we're gonna go up the lighthouse. What was that? It was some kind of structure, tall, circular staircase. Topper follows them, obviously, again, and ends up like maybe pushing, maybe not pushing John B, who then fucking flies through the air, falls very far. I want to say equivalent to the amount of distance that Bran, the Broken, fell in Games of Thrones, episode 1, I think it was, season 1. So spoiler, if you're trying to get into Game of Thrones, that happens. And just comes away with it with like, I don't know, broken wrist, which he ends up taking the cast off like a day later. He had like maybe a headache or a concussion or something like that. I don't know. Kelsey is Rafe's friend. A lot of bros being thrown out here. Yeah, bro. Oh, really, bro? Okay, bro. Yeah, bro. Come on, bro. Bro. I also had a stand-up comedy bit about that did not go over well. Hence, no longer performing. Yeah, but what an ending. What a fucking ending. Because you could just feel, I mean, the last couple episodes where John B's just on the run, on the lam, from the cops, and I mean, the way that they shot that and the way that came around was just perfection. They're on this island or they're by the water. I guess the FBI, feds are in town. They're closing in. The cops have got, I mean, it's a manhunt. It's a manhunt. And we got the fugitive type manhunt going on. And the way that they shot it, the way that it was pulled off, it really made you feel like it was just like, I don't know how the fudge he's going to get out of this. Trapped in the laundry room at one point. They go to a house. All of a sudden, like the cops are just, I guess when you're on a manhunt, you can just quickly be like, hey, open the door, we're kicking it in, and then slap like a post-it note on it and then break in and then just go for it. Didn't know that was a thing. So, but yeah, wanted posters pasted all over town. Everyone's like, kids are like, people are just like fighting each other for the reward. Because I guess the reward was weird too. It was like not $25,000. It was like $25,000 in value of nautical equipment. Like, that you have been confiscated in evidence. Cool. But it felt almost like Grand Theft Auto-ish to a certain extent, because it's just like when you hit, in Grand Theft Auto GTA, when you hit like 4 or 5 stars on the meter, and it's like you don't just have the local authorities on your ass. You have like helicopters, tanks. That's what it started to feel like towards the end there. And they still managed to slip away each time, him and Sarah. And then eventually it was just like, well, we don't want to be arrested and I can't go to jail. This was such a Romeo and Juliet moment though, where John B and Sarah are on the boat and they're like heading into the hurricane because there's no other way about it. And they're like, I'd rather die than go to jail. And it's like, I'd rather die than, I don't know. And it was just like lose you or something like that. It was just like, guys, there's a lot of life left. You're not even legal. You can't even vote yet. You're not even legally allowed to drink. You can't even rent a car. So, no, I mean, there was a moment where it's like, I could totally see this going down the path of 2 lovers. You see John B survive and then Sarah doesn't survive. And you're just like, if they had done that, holy shit. Instead, it looks like they're going to the Bahamas. So pretty excited about season 2. I think it's not bad. I liked it. Yeah, so that's Outer Banks. Good watch. I mean, when you can watch an entire series in like a day or 2, you got something good on your hands. That's the problem with the Netflix series, though. You burn through it so quickly, and then it's 2 years until you get it again. You're like, wait, what? Who are these people again? Where do I know them from? What happened? All right, so let's talk Mets. I had joked about in the last episode, I joked about how I think I somehow managed to transmit my maladies and ills to Jacob deGrom and to the team. Like somehow I infected them. And then, of course, the Lynch curse, the jinx, whatever you want to call it, came calling and hit big time because Mets, after playing the Marlins, ended up getting a player or 2 players and a coach ended up getting tested positive for coronavirus. So they had to take a little break from action. And part of me thought, that's not so bad. We had a couple guys banged up, with a couple guys slumping. Part of me was like, well, fuck, we just had a pretty nice series offensively against the Marlins. Is that going to ruin our momentum? So how do we come back from this? And then, I was trying to look at the positive side of things, and then you realize, 9 games in 6 days, 18 games in 16 days, 34 games in 34 days to end the season. So there's no off days now. And now, given what's happened tonight, so I'm recording this Thursday, August 27th. Mets Marlins ended up not playing the game at a protest, took the field, had 42 seconds of silence, and then went off the field, leaving behind a Black Lives Matter shirt on home plate, which caused some people to be all up in arms and say, like, I don't know. And so they're not going to play a game. They're just kind of falling in line after the Jacob Blake shooting with the NBA, who had a bunch of teams not play their games. I guess the NHL is not going to play tonight or tomorrow and tomorrow. So you have a lot of, teams, athletes coming together and saying, hey, we're not going to play. You're not going to ignore the situation by watching us play. A lot of the athletes didn't feel like it's right. They're not in the right headspace, given everything that's going on, everything that's been done. I watched like part of the video of the shooting. I didn't watch the whole thing. From my vantage point, it looked like he was walking around the car, didn't really have anything in his hands, went to open his, the cops are following closely behind. And then he opens the door and like bends down. And then that's when I guess they unloaded on him 7 times. And I guess he's paralyzed now. He pulled through, but he's paralyzed. Then I saw a video of like an interview with his mom and his dad. And his mom is like, you should not be doing all this stuff in my son's name. And then I hear like, oh, he had a knife or he was going for a knife and he had a sexual assault felony or charge. And that's why the cops were responding that way. So, there are multiple sides to the story. But from, the black community, they just see another unarmed, quote unquote, black man get taken down by police for no good reason. Excessive force, really. When you think about it, police brutality. So it felt like, after George Floyd and after all the protests that we were making some headway and, some positive things going on. You see more people embracing the movement and whatnot. And then this happens and it feels like we're taking a bunch of steps back now to the point where, we didn't have any sports at the time of George Floyd. So, I think you saw athletes coming out on social media and speaking, but there were no sports. So no one was playing. Now that sports are back in, I guess, full swing, all 4 major sports, you can see how it's been impacted. Unprecedented, for sure. So that number has just gone up, and the Mets are going to have to play a whole bunch of games to end the season straight, which even the Cardinals, have only played 20 games. So they have a bunch of games that they have to make up. I don't know how this baseball season is going to turn out. You're going to end up playing the World Series at Christmas, which actually doesn't sound too bad. I saw a headline saying that they're thinking about playing the World Series in Texas. And my thought there is because, you're not going to be able to fit all these games into this time frame that you've self-imposed time frame. So you're going to have to extend the regular season to make sure all the teams are able to finish, because otherwise it's like you're going to cause a lot of commotion if you have teams that are technically in playoff contention but have not played enough games, like the Cardinals. So yeah. Honestly, I don't mind them protesting. I think there was a feeling that they probably should have protested last night because that's when all this went down. And then, of course, the big controversy today, which, only the Mets, I guess, leaked quote unquote footage of Brody Van Wagenen talking to someone off camera and saying like, oh, he wanted, and people think he's talking about Manfred, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred, saying like, oh, Manfred wanted the teams the Mets, our team, to go out in the field to have this moment of silence, have everyone come off the field, and then an hour later come back and play the game at 8. So it's like it was supposed to start at 7. They they do this gesture at 7, make it look like they're protesting and not playing, but then come back and play at 8. And it's just, and he was saying like, oh, Manfred just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. He's not at that level. That would have been weird. That would have been really weird and stupid. So I'm glad that that didn't happen. Instead, they went out 7-10. Looks like they were going to play. They had the 42-second period of silence. Tip the cap. Caps are off. They tip the cap, and then everyone comes off, and that's that. You don't play. And then there was I didn't manage to hear a lot of what was said in the post game. I guess it's not post game. The post protest conference, where it was Conforto, Cano, Smith, and Betances, all four talking. We were like, the baby came home, my wife came home with groceries, like we're cooking dinner, so I didn't get to hear most of it. And of course, the remote control disappeared all of a sudden. It was not in my back pocket. So I wasn't able to hear what was going on, but like I did get to catch Dom Smith's response to a lot of the questions yesterday about what's going on. I mean, and that's hard to stomach, hard to watch. Feel for the guy. And I'm not an empath like my wife, so definitely hit home. It hit a nerve. That it's just sad that we still have to deal with this shit. It's just sad. But as I said, my mom was kind of on the, she's like, why are they doing this? Like, what is this going to change? How is this going to change? And I'm kind of with her on it. It's like you have these boycotts, these strikes, these protests where people are, athletes are not going to play sports because they don't want us to ignore the message. They don't want us to ignore what's going on in the world. And I think from a lot of fans' perspectives, we're not ignoring it. We totally know what's going on. I don't know that, but what is the expectation of the fans, right? I think you have fans that understand what's going on, but this is going on in Kenosha, Wisconsin, or wherever, and you have a guy going with a teenager going with a goddamn weapon, assault weapon, and killing people at a protest. It's just like, everyone says we need to change, but how are we changing? How, dude? And to me, it seems like the politicians have the power, and it's like, okay, as fans of voting age, we have the power to control who is in office and who can, pass laws and legislation to help with this, unfortunate situation. But so you don't play a game, and then people have time to reflect, which is nice. But what's the call? My marketing brain kicks in. Like, what's the call to action? Vote? Okay, get out there and vote. Okay, but what else? Like, vote. Like, the vote's in November. What can we do right now? And I think the takeaway before was try and educate people on what's going on. Arm yourself with knowledge and information so that you can, try and sway people and influence people to come around to your perspective or your view, which, I mean, fuck, I guess it worked on me. Like, Black Lives Matter, like I said in a previous video, I was one of those people that would say all lives matter back in 2015 or whenever. 2015, yeah. And now it's like, no, yeah, we know all lives matter, but Black lives really matter. And we all need people to realize that, and not make excuses and not say this and that. It's just like, we can't have the police doing this. And I mean, I'm not here to discredit the police. That's not my intention. They have one of the toughest jobs in the world. I can't imagine going out day in and day out, not knowing if you're what's coming at you. what you're encountering, what you're coming up on. You think it's a routine traffic stop with an old lady, and it's like the old lady is on pills and has dementia, and like, who knows, shoots you or something like that. So they have to be on guard. They have to be on on high alert at all times. So I'm not trying to discredit them at all. I think they have like an incredibly difficult job, but it's just like, fuck, man. Is there a better way to go about things? Is there better training? What are the solutions? But for you to protest and like not play the games, like, I don't think they're, especially with the NBA, like NBA has been like full on, full force, unabashedly promoting Black Lives Matter. They have Black Lives Matter on the court, Black Lives Matter on the jersey. I don't know that you have anyone watching the NBA and being like, Black lives don't matter. So it's tough. If the goal is like, hey, we need the fans that are watching to take pause and, but then do what? Vote, I guess. Get out there and protest, but then you get out there and protest and some asshole comes with an AK and just starts to lighten everyone up. It's like, what the fuck is going on right now? Ugh. Anyway, you want to talk about baseball? Let's talk about baseball. Mets move Steven Matz to the bullpen. This was news that came last week. I think it's a good move. Seth Lugo joins the rotation. He looked good in his one start, 3 innings pitched, 36 pitches, although they said he had a pitch limit of like 50 to 60. So it's kind of weird that they would take him out after 3. Hopefully he can start, I guess he can start to go closer to 50 to 60 because we have a lot of games and not a lot of arms in the starting rotation. So we need Lugo. And you could see what happens in, last night's game when the Mets were up like fucking 4-1. DeGrom goes 7, 14 Ks, career high. And we don't have Lugo to bridge the gap to possibly go for like a 6-out save or something like that. So you have to rely on Justin Wilson, who's normally reliable, who just decides to shit the bed. Then you have Diaz come in. He shits the bed. And then you have Brock come in. He can't hold down the fort. Marlins end up tying it. And now Diaz is hurt, which, yeah, that just figures. Why not? There was, I think, John Boy Media. I forget who from John Boy Media put up a graphic of like, here are the number of pitchers that have been injured over the past 3 years, 2018, 2019, 2020. 2020, we've only played like around 30 games, and it's already, I think, double the amount of injuries in 2020 than what happened in 2018 and 2019. What is going on? I don't know. Corey Oswalt, who I've, was not high on towards the beginning of the season, he came on and looked good after Rick Porcello got pushed around, old Porcy, old Cello, Porchy. Yeah. Ricky, what do they call him? Ricky Two Lips or something like that. I don't know. He's just not doing well. He's not pitching well. He just is getting knocked around a lot. So we're in trouble there. But Oswald looked okay, after Porcello had a poor outing. But like back-to-back shutouts is just, you can't have that happen. And yet again, it's because 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. I mean, I have some stats down here. First, let's talk about Matt's. Let's just close the book on that Matt's mention that I had. He had a decent first game, maybe his first 2 starts were decent. And then since then, he's been clobbered for 22 runs and 28 hits, 8 home runs. So of the 28 hits, 8 home runs, 5 walks in just 17 innings. Hasn't gotten out of the 5th in any of the past 3 starts. And is sporting a 9 ERA in 23 innings overall. Ugh. So yeah, Steven Matz. But it's like, You move him to the bullpen, but the bullpen is now crowded. I mean, I don't know what the update is on Diaz, but Betances, Diaz, Wilson, Brock, Hughes, Familia. I mean, you got a pretty loaded bullpen. I don't know that you really need him, although we don't have a lot of lefties other than Wilson out of the pen. So, I mean, if Matz can come in and give you a nice lefty on lefty for an inning, I don't hate that. But then, we're so starved in the starting rotation. I think Waka was actually supposed to start tonight, so he'll probably start tomorrow. So it's good to see him back. Peterson is taking longer though. But like with both those guys, Waka and Peterson, they were not. I don't think it was just shoulder inflammation, so I don't think they were supposed to be out for that long. And it's been weeks and weeks and weeks. So it would be nice to have Waka back, but it would be even nicer to get Peterson back and not have to rely on bringing back Matz. Because I mean, the way it is now, is Lugo just an opener, which he hated. He didn't want to do that. If you remember back in spring training, he was like, no, thanks. But is he now an opener? Is Gesellman just an opener where he goes 3 or 4 innings? Is Oswald just an opener? So a lot of questions still with the starting rotation. Yeah. So Michael Mayer from Mets Mirai said the Mets were 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Rich McLeod, not pronouncing that right. He said the Mets have the most insane good / terrible offense you'll ever see. They're first in batting average, first in on-base percentage. They're 30th hitting with runners in scoring position and 20th in total runs. I mean, that's just unfathomable. I don't know how you get around that. This is from August 26th. The Mets have left 4.29 runners in scoring position per game this season, the most in the majors. And the Mets are the only Major League Baseball team over the last 10 years to strand over 4 running runners in scoring position per game. I know. So the only other Major League Baseball team over the last 10 years to strand over 4 running runners in scoring position per game, the 2011 Mets. Yikes. New York Mets stats threw this out on Twitter. I'm a sucker for Jacob deGrom love and hype and fluffing him up, just fluffing the fluff out of deGrom. Here are the most starts allowing pitchers with the most starts allowing 1 run or fewer by okay. Come on, Neil. Get it together. The most starts allowing 1 run or fewer by a starting pitcher in his first 177 games since 1901. You have Madison Bumgarner with 68. Jared Weaver was 69. Nice. Jake Arrieta, 69. Nice. Jake Peavy, 70. Strasburg, 70. Kershaw, 79. Jacob Aloysius deGrom, 83. And it was another no decision last night. Leaves the game with a 3-run lead. We blow it. And Brad Brock, who should have at least, tried to get the hold, gets the win. Oh, boy. I hope the history books and the Hall of Fame reflect how fucked deGrom has been over his Mets career. I tweeted out, I was like, it's just, is deGrom like a complete asshole behind the scenes that his teammates can constantly let him down and blow victories for him? There must be something that he's doing in the clubhouse that the other his teammates don't appreciate. Of his 14 strikeouts last night against the Marlins, 11 were on pitches of 98 plus miles per hour. That destroys the previous single game record in the pitch tracking era. So since 2008 of 8 98 plus mile per hour Ks in a single game held by Luis Severino and Garrett Cole. So, you start to ask, and I know it's a stupid question, but someone had posed it on Twitter and people kind of laughed at it like, ha ha. But like, do you just let deGrom? Okay, twofold. Do you just let DeGrom try and throw 9 innings every time he goes out on the mound? And or as an alternative, do you have him pitch 6 to 7 innings every 4th day as opposed to every 5th day? So you only have 4 starters on the rotation. DeGrom is the one who's going the most. Either way, it's like a recipe for disaster. You just feel like you're just going to burn him out. And then you might have like a Johan Santana situation on your hands where it's like, well, in a shortened season that doesn't mean anything, that's going to have asterisks up the ass or out the ass. You're just going to like destroy DeGrom for what? So we can get a playoff berth. I don't know. But part of me is like, if he's feeling good, fucking let it ride, man. Let him do his thing. Of course, I put the jinx on Andre Jimenez. It seems like whenever a player gets hot, he flies too close to the sun and he gets burnt. So Jimenez and Tomas Nido, Nido had that big game, grand slam, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. Last time we talked, they were both placed on the injured list for undisclosed reasons on Tuesday, which leads a lot of people to believe that those are the 2 players that tested positive for coronavirus. But the Van Wagenen denies it, and he's like, we don't have to disclose who came down with it. But it's like, but yet these 2 players are the ones that are not. Yeah, dude, we can do math. This is kind of a concerning headline that I saw. Rival GMs expect the Mets to be aggressive at the trade deadline, which is, I guess, in a couple of days, August 31st, at the end of the month. Citing that the team has gained financial flexibility when Stro and Yo opted out for the 2020 season. And that's Ken Rosen with All of the Athletic reported that. And I took a look at like the top 50 trade candidates. I think it was from Yardbarker or something like that. A lot of arms, a lot of starting pitching, a lot of relief pitching. And so there's plenty of arms to be had that you could fold into the mix in starting rotation. And I think Van Wagenen was quoted as saying like that he's not opposed to dealing a high-end prospect, which is just, that is not music to thine ears. That is fucking nails on a chalkboard. Don't want to hear that because you're now giving up Kalenic, Dunn, Simeon Woods Richardson, Tony Buckets. You've gotten rid of so many goddamn prospects, and in return, you have shit, just garbage. So I do not have a lot of faith in him trading and getting us anyone. It's just like, you got to figure out what you got to use what you have available to you, to quote Barley from Onward, for all you dads out there who are stuck watching Pixar all day with your little ones. You must use what you have available to you. So yeah, he wants to save his job because he thinks that the playoffs are going to save his job. I said it last week. I think even if the Mets win the World Series, I think he's out of a job because nothing that he's done, everything we've done, all the success that we have achieved has been in spite of him, not because of him. I guess you could say JD Davis. And maybe you would need, I don't even know what you would need for Van Wagenen to keep his job after this. It's like, even if they win the World Series, you would need like all his acquisitions to be major factors and contributors down the stretch. Even then, it's not enough. So he's probably going to get all wild-eyed and bushy-tailed and try and make a move to save his job, and it's going to ultimately fucking crush us and set us back years. Fantastic. So I just don't want us to trade anyone. The only move I could possibly see, now that I'm thinking about it, is that maybe Jimenez is your guy. You're saying, okay, we're putting all our chips on Jimenez. That makes Rosario expendable. Or there's the other shortstop prospect that they have, and I forget his name, but maybe you deal him because you know you have Jimenez in the long run. So that's really the only thing I can see happening is like you got to deal like one of these infielders because we're loaded in the infield. Just not McNeil or Alonso or even Davis. Yeah, so I mentioned Waka and Peterson. They threw bullpen sessions on Wednesday afternoon, and it was the second session for each pitcher. And I mentioned that Waka was supposed to start tonight, so it's good to have. It's just nice to have him back, even if he's just giving us 4 or 5 good innings. And I thought I'd finish up Mets talk with some more love for Dom Smith. This comes from Mike Mayer, yet again, Mets Merized online. They're going 2 for 4 with 2 walks on Tuesday. Dom Smith is now slashing 333, 422, 739. His 1.1 offensive WAR is tied for 8th among National League hitters, along with Brandon Nimmo. And then his 204 WRC plus, no idea what that is, ranks second among major league hitters with at least 80 plate appearances. Juan Soto is first at 225. So it's, regardless of whatever the fuck that means, he's in good company with Juan Soto. So, yeah, it's like I said, watching him tear up and just say like, it's disappointing that people still don't care. Damn, dude, we care. We obviously care, we care. We don't want you to think that you're just like this pawn in a fucking chess match. Like, you're a person, and we understand it's taking a toll. And what's crazy to me is that it seemed like, from what I heard, I caught snippets here and there, but that like Rojas had no idea Dom Smith felt that way. A lot of people made a big deal about Dom Smith was the only one kneeling. All his teammates didn't. And, it's just not being on the same page and not, I don't know that I just wouldn't say no one cares. And I understand that's how he feels, and I'm not trying to discount that, but people care, man. We care very much. So, I mean, it's obviously, they were replaying, SNY was replaying Dom Smith's interview with Steve Gelbs after the George Floyd murder. And you could tell he was affected then. I mean, we're all affected. So, but you could even when he was getting down and crying in that interview yesterday, and was just saying like it's not easy being a black man, and really pouring his heart out. He would catch himself a couple times, be like, "I'll be good, I'll be okay, I'm all right, we'll figure it out." And he always has like that positive aftertaste going on, where it's like, this has sucked. I've encountered a lot of horrible shit. It's been overwhelming, but we're going to get through it. And, believe in us, I believe was the takeaway. So gotta love it, man. So, I mean, that's why even though a lot of people are saying this season's fraudulent, it's like, if you can actually pull this off and fucking win this goddamn championship amidst all that's happening, the police brutality, pandemic. I mean, if you can pull through that, any team, sports team, really, if you can pull through all that and fight through it and beat the odds and whatever, with people going down left and right, I think that's that should not be a footnote, or that shouldn't be something that is overlooked. It's this is people are saying sea change. That's the key word going around now. So, to say that you won like throughout all this like fucking insanity is worth something. All right, so that's the Mets. Let's talk Giants. Let's talk Giants. Son of a gun. Xavier McKinney, David Mayo, both go down with injuries. Both were projected starters. Xavier McKinney is out 10 weeks, 2 to 3 months with a fractured foot. What the actual F? David Mayo has a torn meniscus, which I've been down that road, David, and it is not, I don't think it gets better. I don't know. But I think Garofalo or someone said that he will get surgery. It'll just be trimming down the meniscus, which I've had. I've now torn meniscus twice, both playing football on artificial turf, both the same knee. First time was a bigger tear. Second time was a tear. Each time they just keep trimming it down, trimming it down. It does not regenerate. It does not grow back. You are more prone to tearing the meniscus again. So it's definitely weaker. It's not something that you can just like, with an ACL. With the ACL, I had a cadaver, like an ACL from cadaver. I think it was the same operation that maybe Tiger Woods had, I believe. No big deal. Humble brag. But that is something where the meniscus is just something where it just never grows back and just keeps going down and down and down and down. So hopefully, I mean, he's at a higher probability of tearing it again, but they're putting the timeline for him at like he'll be back on the field in 3 weeks or so, which that just means back on the field. I don't know that it means like back on the starting lineup in 3 weeks. McKinney, though, that's a huge blow. I mean, you had all kinds of freaking people left and right saying that this dude is going to be like all pro, Pro Bowl, defensive rookie of the year. I mean, just all the accolades given to him now. And nope. I mean, maybe they get him back towards in November. Most definitely December. Who knows where the team's at that point? I mean, would be, and don't get me wrong, I am fucking bummed. It is awful news. That said, I know that depth has been a concern for us, but I don't feel as bad knowing that we still have Jabril and we still have Julian Love. Julian Love was kind of positionless. They said he can go wherever. He can go here, slot him anywhere. I think this takes some of the pressure off of him personally and maybe even off the coaches. As much as the coaches like to tout like this mystery defensive scheme that they were going to throw out there, I think there's got to be a certain degree of relief for at least Love and the coaches to say, okay, we know. Love, you are the free safety. Jabril, you're the strong safety, or vice versa, whatever, and just go from there. Holy shit, though. Because I was starting to convince myself and talk myself into thinking like, hey, this defense is going to be, it's got teeth. It's not going to be last year's defense. We're not going to be soft. We're going to be tough. We have McKinney, who's basically Isaiah Simmons. And with all the additions we have, and then I heard that someone mentioned or brought up in the presser with Joe Judge that like something happened to friggin' Blake Martinez now. I didn't even bother looking at it, but he missed practice. Great. Unknown ailment. Son of a gun. So, yet again, all the good vibes I had, all the positive vibes I had about this upcoming season and what we were putting out and the product that we're putting out, it's like taking all the wind out my sails. Of course, the media just can't get enough. Not just the local media, not just New York sports media, but everyone across the country just can't get enough of how Joe Judge is like completely flipping the script on training camp and practices and all that shit. The people making a big to-do about how he said, there were headlines about how he's considering having Daniel Jones practice without the red jersey. The red jersey is, you put him on the quarterbacks and it's like a big old stop sign, red light to defenders saying, don't hit this motherfucker. We need him. Don't get him injured. And people lost their goddamn minds. But the takeaway from that was that he just there are no preseason games, folks. And I know if you were to ask was it Jim Kelly, maybe Aaron Rodgers? There are a lot of top echelon quarterbacks who are like, my head is not necessarily in the game until I get that first hit out of my system. When I take that first big hit, then all the nerves come out and I'm able to play my game. That's not every quarterback, but I know there's a healthy portion of quarterbacks that would think, they tend to play tentatively until they get they get punched in the face, and then it's like, all right, let's fucking go. And I think that's the message that Judge was saying was not like, hey, we're gonna unleash the dogs on this dude, but we do need to pop him and let him know to be able to take a hit and throw, and feel comfortable taking hits. So I completely understand where he's coming from. It's just like the NFL has progressed to a point where they want to minimize the level of injuries they're seeing, want to cut down the concussions, and so they're taking a lot of physicality out of the game, both on the field but in the practice and training camp. So what Judge is trying to do is like push the limit and envelope on that as much as possible, so that we don't come out and play soft. I get it. I don't know why the media can't. Art Stapleton, who is one media member I tend to like. This was yesterday. He tweeted out Joe Judge on backlash from saying he'd like to get Daniel Jones and other Giants quarterbacks some hits some way before the opener against the Steelers. Quote, I've got the strength staff downstairs right now putting bars of soap in socks, and we're just going to take them out back and wail on them for a while. Little shout out, Full Metal Jacket, no big deal. Yeah, I mean, this is yet another reason, and like I get it. We could come out and go 0-16, and then people are like, Joe Judge is a fucking idiot, or he doesn't know what he's doing. But everything he says and does, I just love. He's like the complete opposite of Pat Shurmur. Shurmur would have scoffed and rolled his eyes and would have looked down at the media and give some kind of condescending bullshit answer. This is like a little bit of humor. I get a Bill Parcells vibe from him, and I fucking love it. I'm head over heels. With all the secondary issues that we've been having, we signed cornerback Brandon Williams, and I think we invited in Kevare Russell. Williams was selected by the Cardinals in the third round of the 16 draft. Tested well at the combine, 4.37 40, 5'11 and 197. Russell was originally drafted by the Chiefs, but he was waived 1 week into his rookie season, which is kind of a red flag. He landed with the Bengals, where he played 20 games over 3 seasons, and he spent part of last season on the Chargers practice squad. He's 5'11", 192, ran a 4.44 40, and a 38-inch vertical leap. So I'd imagine of the two, Williams might actually get to see some playing time. We also signed Prince Smith, who was waived by the Eagles last week or a couple weeks ago. He was a 4-year starter at New Hampshire. Won the Defensive Rookie of the Year, Jerry Rice Award Watch List Rookie of the Week in 2016. So, I mean, he put up some good numbers there. But again, it's New Hampshire. It's like, what else is going on up there? So they're throwing bodies. They're signing guys. They're waiving guys a week later. It's like Joe Judge ain't got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that, but especially Joe Judge. So he's bringing guys in, seeing how they flow, seeing how they mesh, seeing how they gel. And if they don't work out in like a week, he's like, adios. He either sees it or he doesn't. And I like that he's got a vision. He knows what he wants. Brings the guy in, doesn't work out, peace. I mean, it's cold-blooded, but he's not wasting any time. He's not dilly-dallying. He's not trying to he's just going for it. And, whatever sticks, which I'll get to, the surprises galore that I think Paul Schwartz of the New York Post was talking about. He's like, there will be surprises because he seems to be unorthodox with the way he approaches the game. And he doesn't give a shit about prestige, legend, any of that. He's just like, if you can do what we want you to do, or we can coach you to the point where you are playing the best out of everyone, doesn't matter what's your name, how much you're making, which is just like really good to hear. DeAndre Baker's legal drama takes another bizarre turn. According to, I believe, Pat Leonard, New York Daily News. No one in Florida is interested in pursuing charges or an investigation against anyone other than Baker, who has maintained his innocence. And that includes Dominic Johnson, who was the one who was like paying everyone off, all the witnesses off. Dunbar, apparently, Quentin Dunbar, avoided charges. And he says that he appeared to defend Baker. So he remains on the commissioner's exempt list and has an arraignment scheduled for the day after our opener, September 15th. So you kind of, just when you think it's like, it's not looking great, it's like, well, Leonard apparently calls one county sheriff's office, one county office, and is like, hey, why aren't you doing this? And they're like, well, it's actually this county that's supposed to be handling it. And they're like, well, we never heard from this other county. And they're like, actually, we did hear from this county. It's like, oh boy, what are you doing, Florida? Get your shit together. Sports Illustrated had 5 bold predictions for the 2020 season for the New York Giants. First one is that Daniel Jones throws for more than 4,000 yards. It's about as mild as you can get. I don't think that's very bold considering what he put up in only 12 games last year. I think they can easily hit 4,000 yards. Number 2, Leonard Williams records a career high 8 sacks, which that would be nice. I mean, last week I said, if he gets between 5 and 10 sacks, is that going to be enough for you to sign him to a long-term deal and throw a lot of money at him? I don't know. PFF also had tweeted out that here are the QB hits among interior defensive linemen since 2015. Fletcher Cox at 64. Aaron Donald had 93, and right sandwiched in the middle in the meat in that sandwich, 82, Leonard Williams. So Williams has 82 QB hits, is second most among interior defensive linemen in the past 5 seasons. Sacks, dude. We need sacks. I mean, I this popped into my head just now, but like they showed a clip from camp. Jones throws to Engram for a touchdown. It's a beautiful toss, beautiful catch. For a touchdown, but people are also calling out how good Dexter Lawrence looked on that because he threw around Zeitler and put his hand up. But what's the end result, folks? It's like, it's great that he got pressure, I guess, and he was able to put his hand up and he looked like he won that battle. It's a touchdown. So, I don't want pressures. I don't want hits. I want sacks, baby. Pure, unadulterated, hardcore sacks. Okay. Horny much? Saquon Barkley will rush for over 1,500 yards and win the rushing title. Kind of a bold prediction. I mean, win the rushing title is interesting. More than 1,500 yards I could see. So I don't know if it's that bold. Winning the rushing title is bold, though. When you have someone like Ezekiel Elliott running behind that friggin' offensive line for the Cowboys, I think he's probably got a better shot at it, but so that's pretty bold. They also said McKinney will win the Defensive Rookie of the Year, which you can scratch that off the list unless he has a fucking ungodly December. And the Giants, this is the last one. The Giants will have a winning season for the first time since 2016. Whoo, baby. Would I love that for that to happen? But, with Martinez missing practice and Mayo going down, McKinney going down, I was like, I don't know, dude. I was inching closer and closer. I initially, when the schedule came out, had them at 7 and 9. And then you start to hear some things. Jones putting on some muscle, Saquon looking beastly, McKinney and everyone just like, Nick Gates looks like he's going to be the guy at center. It's just like, all right, moving up to 8 and 8. And then the next week, it's like, 9 and 7, lock it in. Best case scenario, I love it. I like it. And now it's, probably going to go back to 7 and 9. So this is what I referenced earlier. Paul Schwartz from New York Post, he wrote an article, said that there will be surprises galore on the Giants roster, which is like, oh boy. He mentioned a few names, basically saying that Joe Judge doesn't tend to speak highly about his players or get into much detail about a lot of the star players. but that he's more inclined to pump up and talk highly about the undrafted guys, or the guys that no one's really paying attention to, like David Sills, the fourth, I believe. He's 6'3". The wide receivers coach called him a rep stealer. And I saw another tweet saying that he continues to make plays left and right. And just when you count him out and you think that's all you're going to see out of him, like, oh, great, he made a play, he just makes another. He continues to make plays day in and day out. And it's just nice to see that we got a receiver that's above 6 foot. A nice, tall, big target that could possibly make an impact that we haven't seen in since Plax, right? 2007, 2008, Plax. I mean, I can't think of another receiver that was big, tall, that could be a threat in the red zone. So it could be nice to see Sills make the squad. Alex Bachman has kind of like a Wayne Corbett, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman type vibe to him. They call him a 6 foot dynamo. So he's bigger than Edelman and Welker for sure. People have referred to Bachman as a 6 foot dynamo from Wake Forest. I did see one video of him. Daniel had a beautiful pass down the right sideline, and Bachman pulled it in, made the catch. Austin Mack is another guy that has been highly touted and praised, undrafted rookie free agent from Ohio State, quote unquote, a super smart guy, which, Joe Judge has repeatedly said whenever he's been interviewed that he wants intelligence. He wants football smarts. So it doesn't hurt Mac's chances there. We had mentioned they recently signed CJ Board. He's a speedy 26-year-old receiver with 4 games of NFL experience with the Jaguars last year. Really has speed off the ball, which, there was a lot of criticism from people about the Giants receivers last year not getting separation, like Golden Tate. Amazing after the catch, but he's got to get open for the quarterback to throw to him so he can make a move and get away. I think the same could be said for possibly Shepard. I don't know about Slayton though. Slayton seems like, I guess Slayton didn't really get a lot of separation either most of the time. So, to have a guy like Board who has speed off the ball makes me think that you can get that separation quickly initially, and could be a threat like on slants, flats, whatever, short 3-step passing options that he can then turn into big gains. And then the last name mentioned, Javon Leake, undrafted rookie running back out of Maryland. Could be our starting kick returner. We had mentioned it last week, like who's going to return punts and kicks. Was it going to be Peppers, Tate, and it might end up being Javon Leake, which if they keep him, then what do you do with, I don't think a lot of people were counting him in the mix at running back because we already have Barkley, Lewis, Gallman, Elijah Penny. Is Leake in the mix there? I don't know. And then Devontae Downs, who is a 24-year-old former 7th round pick of the Vikings. I watched some highlights. I think it was David Solo of Giants Alliance put out some highlights from Devontae Downs on Twitter, and he looked pretty good. I think he's undersized, but he doesn't play undersized. I mean, he was making some head up, chest on chest hits that made me think that he could be a surprise starter alongside Martinez if Martinez doesn't have whatever the hell's going around, the injury bug. Here's another tweet about David Sills from Adam Johnson Jr. Adam Thielen isn't that fast, but his route running and knowing the defense's smarts is what separates him, and I see David Sills the same way. Oh, interesting. And then PFF also released their list of each team's most underutilized or underused players. And for the Giants, they had Caden Smith, tight end Caden Smith. Took advantage of his opportunity late last season when Ingram went down and developed chemistry with Daniel Jones. So, man, it's hard not getting excited and pumped about the Giants offense when you think about all the weapons. But we've been doing this. Like, come on, Neil. You're better than that. Come on, Giants fans. We're better than that. Every fucking year since 2015. I mean, it's since Odell came on the scene. So 2014, we didn't, Victor goes down. We were so excited to have Victor and OBJ. We only got him for like 2 games. So then 2015 comes around. We're like, we have the best receiving unit. We have the best offensive weapons. OBJ. Can you imagine Cruz and OBJ on the same field? And then, Cruz gets hurt again. Missed that season. Cruz comes back from 2016. He's obviously lost a step, but we still think, holy shit, we've got OBJ, Shepard, and Cruz. Like, how do you beat that? And then, our offense kind of was not at the level that we all thought it would be. 2017, we bring in goddamn Brandon Marshall, and we think, okay, now we have Brandon Marshall, OBJ, blah, 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 and Evan Ingram. Like, how do you defend that? Well, everyone goes down hurt. That's how you defend it. It seems like every year we get so hype about our offense, and every year we get let down. So you know what? Temper your expectations this year. Just push it down deep. Be nice to have Caden Smith and Evan Ingram on the same field for 16 games. Will it happen? Probably not. So then we'll just finish up. We'll finish up with this. PFF projected all 32 starting lineups for the 2020 NFL season. This was on August 24th, so this was obviously before Mayo and McKinney got hurt. So we'll try and slot in who my picks are for those two. But not many surprises on offense. Jones, Barkley, Shep, Slay, Slayton, Tate, Ingram, Thomas at left tackle, Hernandez at left guard, Gates at center. So it looks like that is pretty set in stone. It's Gates and Pulley. Jalapeno is like working out for the Texans, so I don't think he's in the mix. But you got to give the edge to Gates, the alpha male. Zeitler at right guard, and then it looks like they're slotting in Cameron Fleming at right tackle. But as we'll get to in a little bit, it's kind of up in the air. I think that, you hear Mark Colombo, the offensive line coach, talk about Matt Parrott, and he's dropping profanity in his description in a positive way. I don't know. I mean, that's like kind of hard to not feel like Parrott is going to eventually win that battle. On the defensive side of the ball, we have Leonard Williams, Tomlinson, Lawrence, which that is like, you hear those names and you hear all the praise being heaped on these dudes, and it's like, how are we still such a horrible defense? It looks like they're going to give the edge to Fackrell over Lorenzo Carter, who could be on the outs, unfortunately. And the other edge goes to Golden. And then you have Martinez in the middle, and then Mayo was slotted as the starter, but it looks like it's going to be a battle between Ryan Connolly, who a lot of people have just like counted out for whatever reason, even though he had such a great 2019 start to 2019, showed some flashes. But Devontae Downs, the guy that we mentioned in the previous segment, he's going to be battling with Connolly, and then you have Tate Crowder, who apparently has shown some flashes here and there. So should be interesting to see who eventually lines up there. It might just be, slot in whoever is best against whatever eventuality you think is going to happen. Jesus, that's a long-winded saying. Like, in this 3rd and 6 situation, we believe that Crowder's the guy. And in this 2nd and 11 situation, we believe Connolly's the guy. So I think you're going to see multiple people kind of fill in there. Bradbury, and then they have Ballantyne as the CB2 on the other side. And then Julian Love as the 3rd cornerback / safety, and then Jabril Peppers and McKinney. So now you have McKinney out, Love slides into the safety position. And then who's that third corner? This feels wrong. I feel like they're completely just overlooking Darnay Holmes. I think Darnay Holmes is the third corner. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's the second corner. Although you did see, was it Benjamin Victor, another tall, big guy, torch Darnay Holmes on a deep throw. But I mean, it's one play out of how many plays that you will have in camp. You know, it's so out of context that you can't really make any decisions on it, which I believe Talking Giants has already talked about. Like, you just can't give a take on one play from hundreds of plays that are happening. So, but I would suspect that Darnay Holmes gets a lot more playing time. There was also some mention of like Chris Williamson, possibly. So, yeah, I think the secondary is still that second and third corner. Those are for me are still up in the air, and so that's that. But PFF said that the starting spot up in the air is right tackle Cameron Fleming. There were three main competitors: Gates, Parrott, and Fleming. But Gates is obviously probably going to go into. He looks comfortable at center, so let's just fucking go with it. You know what I'm saying? So that leaves Parrott and Fleming. And the writer, I forgot to get his name, but he gave the nod to Fleming primarily because of the experience he brings to the table. And Parrott was strong in pass protection across multiple seasons as a starter in college. A lot to like for him developmentally, which is, you know, it's been the mantra since day one with him. Developmental. Needs to add play strength. Things could get ugly if he's forced into early action. Should still factor into the competition. Fleming has turned in PFF grades below 60 in limited action with Dallas each of the past two seasons. So I would view Fleming more as insurance. And, you know, it's like with everything that you're hearing about Parrott and the pictures you're seeing, it's hard not to push for him to just get the starting job. And then if he you're not going to like immediately cut him or release him. I mean, I'd say throw him into the fire. He's got Thomas on the other end that he can lean on and kind of, be just depend on as a fellow rookie. And then if he falls short, you got Fleming in the wings. I don't know. I guess the thought process is you put Fleming out there, and if he stinks, then it's like you have to go to Parrott. Either way, I still feel better about this offensive line than I have than previous offensive lines. So that's the show. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to all my bullshit and me ranting about everything that I have very limited knowledge about and I should not be speaking about, but I feel compelled to put my voice out there, my opinion. So, just try and stay sane, everybody. Just try and keep it together. We'll pull out of this. I hope. I think. But yeah, change is a good thing. I think. It's all about. I've been taking leadership courses. And I've learned that I've had a fixed mindset for a very long time in my life. And I'm trying to have a growth mindset, but I'm also not trying to be a pretentious douche about it. So I'll leave it at that. We will not, you will not hear from me next week. Probably not. It's looking not likely that you will hear from me next week. It'll probably be the next time you'll hear from me will probably be September. Whoa. What the hell happened to this year? I don't know. 2021, what do you got in store? But yeah, probably won't hear from me next week. If you do, I don't even know what it will look like or sound like. I honestly don't know. It could be a surprise, but it also could be, you could be stuck on reruns. So thank you so much for putting up with my nonsense. And Until next time, adios, muchachos.